Good afternoon, everyone. Magbabasa ko ng work ng student ko. Hindi ko na sila pinapunta dito kasi bakasyon sila. Tapos, isa ito dun sa mga output na pinroduce ng estudyante ko last year sa fiction class. So, siyang excerpt lang yung babasahin ko from a short story by Legia Grisada Taroy. The title is Remake ng Kampana. The Victorians attached bells from the inside of coffins to the outside because they were so scared of being buried alive. That was the first thought that permeated his dreams as he woke up to a grumbling in his tummy and the mid-morning sun in his eyes. He had no problem about the dark or confined places or the fact that meters of dirt piled between him and the outside world. If ever I was buried alive, I'd die panicking in the process, he thought. But these kinds of thoughts were not appropriate for a lovely day like this, a day worthy being spent having a picnic, playing frisbee, or gently chilling and letting everything go. Belle, his mind echoed. Where have I heard that name before? He shook his head, trying to get rid of the daze he was in. There was something in his head incessantly calling the name Belle over and over again, as if he woke up forgetting everything. The only thought he had before thinking of Belle was the bright day shoulder hold up. Ah, of course! He felt happy with himself, solving problems he'd been struggling with, as light-headed as he was at that moment. I guess I'll call her, he thought, as he rolled onto his side, groping for the bedside table for his phone. The name Belle pelting in his head as he was about to dial her number, but instead, he fell down on his side, groping air onto the cold tiled floors. Huh? He thought. He didn't remember having tiled floors. And neither did he remember any time when somebody could have moved his bedside table someplace else. He stood up on surprisingly heavy and wobbly knees and looked around the room. It didn't take a lot of brains to figure out where he was. He was in a morgue, and judging by the pain within the bullet hole he felt in his abdomen, he was not here for a casual visit. He was here because he was dead. Life, that was usually it. You go to school, earn a living, spend time wallowing in your wasted years, only to be followed by a supposed peaceful and meaningful death. It ended the last chapter of the book that was you, a book other people had the luxury of flipping through. He now had the chance of revisiting his past, coming back from the dead to redeem his life, a moment to reclaim the moments he forgot to seize during his lifetime. He was feeling hungry, and he was sure that ghosts were not supposed to feel hungry, so with the prospect of being a ghost out of his mind, he went about his business thinking about how he was supposed to find something to eat. Even the sight of dead bodies and the pungent smell of decomposition wasn't enough to quell his hunger. If anything, it intensified it. How am I supposed to find food in the morgue? He said aloud to himself, sure that nobody around him was going to hear anything he said anyway. Obviously, I'll have to ask someone. How hard can that be? Striding to the double doors, he found a girl in a nurse's uniform sitting on a desk near the entrance of the morgue. He hid his hands behind his back and grunted at the woman, catching her attention. Hello, ma'am. I'm looking for my clothes. Have you seen them? The woman shook her head without looking up and gave him a heavy sigh. Of course, before he could go about the building and look for food, he would have to be properly dressed, right? Who even wore hospital gowns these days? It was cold, especially in the morgue, and he didn't think dressing up the patients in the cotton-thin gowns that showed their buttocks was a very good idea. Please, ma'am, I need to get dressed. All right. What room were you in, sir? Quinto, he made quinto. What room were you in, sir? I don't remember. All right, Mr. Quinto. I'll get the counter to locate your room so you can retrieve your clothes. But until then, don't get too cold. Thank you so much, ma'am. Which way to the canteen? The woman pointed her hand out to the stairs. You go straight up and follow the signs until you reach the lobby. Turn right from the left wing and you'll find yourself in the canteen. Himig extended his hand for her to shake. Thank you, ma'am, retrieving his hand quickly before she could register the red tag on his wrist. He smiled and turned towards the cold metal double doors, thinking of whether he should strip off his hat. People might get freaked out, he thought, because people weren't really used to seeing a wandering dead guy walk the hospital corridors. While Himig was hatching a plan in his cold head inside the morgue, the woman at the counter was purposely typing on her keyboard, watching the names under Quinto stretch across the page. Himalaya, Higgins, she tried different combinations to remember his name, feeling it on the tips of her fingers. Harold, Himig, Quinto Himig, release date, yesterday, status, deceased. The woman at the counter looked at the picture of the man she had just talked to a few minutes ago. Impossible, she thought, remembering how lively he looked. He was hungry. Ghosts are not supposed to be hungry. The morgue was bare and white, neatly lined with metal beds and labels for the dead. He couldn't imagine why a dead guy would need anything else, like bathrooms or televisions. But now he regretted not pioneering fully functional morgues during his lifetime. He didn't remember what he was back then, but he deduced that he could have at least had a little sense to think about the future. Carpe diem, he thought, although I think I did forget to seize my moment. I guess it wasn't a question of what he remembered, but rather of what he forgot. He doesn't remember his parents, his house, the school he went to. Heck, he didn't even know what age he died. He could have been celebrating his birthday right now, and he'd still be as clueless as a corpse. Without his memories, he was just a body pretending to be a man. He wasn't that much of a monster yet anyway, because, like I said, he didn't forget everything about himself. He remembered a woman named Belle, some useless facts about Victorian practices, and the fact that he did not have a tile floor in his bedroom. Ah, Belle, he reminisced. And although he didn't really know who he was remembering, he held on to it. He held on to the only memory he had of being a human. Thank you.
The builders. Galing yan, nag-metamorphosis siya. Yun yun eh. Nasa cocoon. Out of the cocoon. Galing ang image ng metamorphosis. Pag-break niya. Galing. Powerful yung plastic. Galing.